Welcome to Levels of Connection, where we discuss how human connections work and why they're so important. Welcome to Levels of Connection, another great episode, another fantastic conversation. Today I'm speaking with Ritchie Nkana, who's a former banker and now a transformation specialist, especially in the fitness area of our lives. So many insights and a really energizing conversation. Enjoy. Ritchie, really good to have you on Levels of Connection. Welcome, man.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
It's all my pleasure. And to introduce you to our audience, Ritchie Nkana is a former banker and now is a transformation specialist. I love your journey, and I'm sure we're going to get a chance to talk about it and to get into it. So, welcome. And let's start from the title of our podcast, Levels of Connection. What does connection with others mean to you, Ritchie?
Yeah, connection with others, that's a very good one, actually. In case of connection with others, I think that starts with connection within ourselves. Connection is how is it that we can be a thing of value to other people as well, not just to ourselves. I think there's always this thing about, right, okay, if if I connect with someone, what is it that maybe I'm getting out of it? I think it goes both ways. So for me, connection is all about being able to add value to another human being. If we're talking about interpersonal connection, that is.
Mm. And you've been on your journey. You've been providing value before in your previous role from within the banking industry, and now within the transformation work that you're doing, either one to one with people or as a public speaker or with groups and teams of people. Talk to us a little bit about your journey, how that was triggered, how that was made.
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually, because they say change happens two ways, right? It could be either through inspiration or desperation. And for me, transitioning, I think, from coming from a business or banking background to now into this fitness or transformation space was something that I sort of, again, it was more about that desperation. Looking at the background for me, because I'm looking at self in the mirror and I don't like what I see, right? It's not just about how I looked, but how I showed up. In business, coming from business, we pretty much sort of like track everything. We look at things like, say, how are we progressing? How are we growing? How are we progressing? Look at the results, right? We track everything from profits to performance. But when it comes to on a personal level, right, at that point for me, when I looked at it, if you're looking at a P&L, I was definitely trading at a very bad loss, right? And the change was more around on the back of it because, like the fact that I did not have maybe the energy, I was not really showing up as I should. But then I was also scared because I got health conditions I'm running my family. And for me, that sort of like triggered that element, right? I need to make that shift because I need to be there for my family. I need to be there for my kids. And in doing that, I was looking at the solutions that were around in the marketplace for me. And, being a busy banker, working long hours, I only had a very short, small window in the evening, maybe to do the workouts and stuff like that. So I reached out to PTs, and for the most part, the solution that they gave me was just no right for me. So I did the next best thing, and just more like getting into the study of all that stuff. Not so much for me to teach, right? But for me to help myself. Because I really realized at that moment in time I was living in a problem and not in a solution. And that's how it all came about. And that shift not only helped me transition or help myself get better, lose about 40 pounds and keep it off for the longest time, have more energy. And I actually found my money actually, even what I was actually earning actually doubled, which is actually quite interesting. And from that, that's how it actually evolved. And now I'm teaching that because what I found was that there was a lot of other parents, other professionals, other achievers that were struggling with the same struggles. And the thing about the solutions that were there were just no right for them. So that's a little bit of the background in how I
Yeah.
transitioned from being that chubby banker to to now.
I'm curious, how did that transformation change the way that you connect with others or relate to others?
Yeah, that's a good one because I think one thing I found is more about my confidence, right? And we don't speak about that enough. For me, I think it was just how I showed up.
Mm,
And when we talk about fitness, we always look at it more about the physicality, how we look. But for me, it went beyond that. It was more about one that offered the cognitive function and how I showed up. And that pretty much sort of like extended to my confidence in how I communicated, related with people. So, yes, it did impact a great deal in how I connected with people because then I was a lot more confident. And that's how I showed up as well. We talked about
mm,
value, right? We bring be it more to the marketplace or to the people we interact with, we connect with. So I was of more value now that I was showing up at my best. Not only physically with the energy I had, but you eliminate things like brain fog. You're just
mm,
sharper, you're just a little more productive. And that value, right, just enhance the relationships I have. Even now, I think looking at say 10, 20 years ago, the relationship I had now and the relationships I have now, I can
mhm.
see it's almost like day and night in what I actually bring to the table.
And how
Yeah.
about with yourself? The different connection with yourself due to this journey that you've had.
Again, that is a very good one because the thing about it is I think connection has to start with oneself. And it's about, for me, I look at it mind, body, and soul, right? One, in the case of, yes, when your mind is not growing, you're not connecting with your mind. Tell you what, there is a void there, right? We're talking about the soul, talking about love, self-love and love, maybe relationship, because once you have self-love, then that extends to everybody else. So you can't love somebody else if you don't love oneself.
Mm,
So it starts with that. And with that self-respect, it starts with that, right? Then we're talking about body, right? Body is pretty much the only home that we have. That is pretty much the operator. So if you're not healthy, everything else pretty much takes a back seat. It might not be where it's supposed to be. So for me, that relationship, that connection with self, I think it was a starting point. And that is pretty much the cornerstone of everything else because we cannot pretty much pour from an empty cup,
mm,
right?
mm.
So we have to fill our own cup first before we can pretty much share that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Um, you have your own business and you are on a growth pattern. To people that are just starting out their businesses and want to connect more and want to expand and want to grow, what are some of the experiences that you've had that you want to share around connecting in business?
Yeah, when it comes, I think in any business, business is all about relationships, right? It's all about genuine relationships. So I think for me, the most important thing, again, it's about how is it that you can increase value for somebody else, right? And I did talk about earlier that what's in there for me, right? Times it might sound like a bit selfish. We're not looking at it from that perspective as what is in there for me, but
Mm,
what is in there for me is that what value can you also bring to somebody else, right? If your relationship or that what you're creating, you're starting a business, you're not adding value because we get paid for what? Get paid for value brings to the marketplace,
mhm,
and that's what a business is all about, right? What problem are you solving? Because by solving that problem, you bring value to the marketplace. So it's about being clear on that. Um, And that's where there is a bit of a struggle with disjoint there, because people just think about, right, okay, I'm going to set up a business because this is what I want. In our mind, this is what we think is supposed to be the business. But how about we sort of like turn it the other way around, right? What is a problem I'm solving? It comes back to that connection, right? That relationship we're creating. Because then it's not just about me, but how is it I can be that channel that can actually bridge that gap and bring that knowledge that I have to solve a problem. Not only are you solving that problem, but you're creating those connections, right? You're bridging that gap. You're bringing value. And with that, you're likely going to be compensated, because what drives what we get paid is driven on the value bring to the marketplace. And the bigger the problems you can solve, the better connections you can make, the more money you can actually get paid. So yeah, so to people that are aspiring in the case of starting a business, it's all about identifying those particular problems you're solving. I think I've had that view of actually coming from the corporate world, both in the corporate world and leading transformation programs, be in the business world, in the banking sector, and now and having also running my own business. And I found with everything you're doing, be it as a wage handler, right? You're working in a place or running a business, it all comes back to that. Being able to solve that problem. Solve problems. So the bigger problems you can actually solve, the more money you can actually be paid or be compensated. So yeah, so I think I would look at it more from that perspective. What problem are you solving? Right. And what value is it that what value can you bring to the marketplace to be able to solve that particular problem?
How about for people that have an amazing product and they have amazing solutions about solving some problems for people, but they don't know how to connect and actually convey what they're doing?
That's a good one, because I actually have a program that I teach. I call it 3D framework. The 3D framework, which pretty much points to that, because it's the
Okay.
biggest problem. Because in my case, I've applied it to myself, because coming from a corporate world, my consultancy business, and now coming into where I'm actually B2C kind of business was been very, very different. I'll give you an example. For me, my consulting business, in the case of banking area, I had these relationships I had created, these connections I had created. I never really had to advertise my services to that visibility. I had the network that would actually reach out to me, and I would get a be it contract and all that kind of stuff, which is good. I think I was lucky in that respect. Came to the B2C, in the case of the coaching business, very, very different, right? With this, I had to go on things like social media. Like, I had to go on things like, in the case of LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff, right? Because guess what? You might have the best product on the marketplace, but if people don't have visibility of it, nobody's going to buy it, right? So to your question again, is more about understanding, where does your ideal client actually reside, right? Understand that, because you need to articulate that. The 3D framework I told you about is more about the 3Ds is all about demand, right? We get demand, that's what drives what people actually buy. So the way I teach it is more like in the case of, like, you're looking at it more like it's sitting on a tripod, right? So demand is right at the top, right? And the two legs, so you got the two legs, you got what I call, in the case of difficulty in being replaced, right? Because that's what will enhance the level of actually what people can actually pay. The more you are harder to replace in the marketplace, or your product, be it your service, right? So about being good, how is it that you can stand out from the marketplace, right? I would give an example of, say, a surgeon, and say if I get a job, say in McDonald's or Burger King, right? I'll just give you an example. Actually, growing up as a kid, I used to struggle seeing people dig trenches, right? Working really hard, right? Sweating it out. Very good people. And I see somebody going to the office, right, sitting behind a desk, and they get paid 10, 20 times more than somebody who's been slaving out, sweating it out, right, which seems to be harder work. I was like, life isn't fair. How is it that, right? Till I understood this thing about value, right? For somebody maybe who's in the office, talk about somebody who's a surgeon, a job which might take maybe an hour or 2 hours to operate, to do a surgery, and they get paid plenty of money. And you got somebody working 8 hours digging trenches, they get peanuts, right? It's so what? The difficulty in being replaced. You can replace a surgeon in 5 minutes. Whereas digging a trench, I can go do it. I might not be as efficient to start off with, but it's something I can pick up a shovel and go dig, right? Same in the case of talking about McDonald's, I can go maybe flip some burgers, whatever it is. Whereas to replace somebody who's an architect, it takes years to get trained up in that, right? So that is the difficulty in being replaced, right? Then you got the delivery, which is the other leg. Delivery is what we're talking about, the visibility. How is it you're visible to the marketplace, right? Now, the thing about it is once you are difficult in being replaced, be it your product or service, and you're visible to the marketplace, guess what? It's natural, the demand just falls in place. You don't need to do much to it because you got those two ingredients. So yeah, so with that is, yes, you have a lot of people with very good products, very good ideas, but people are not aware of that product and nobody's going to buy. So it's about dialing in on that. And it's something I've had to learn in my case is like, I need to learn marketing now because I'm in this whole new ball game now of coaching and requires me going out to the marketplace. I need
And
to be
you're much
visible.
more visible now as well, especially with the fitness focus. You have to be out there showing and demonstrating and really, being in the spotlight. How did that feel? Were you immediately at ease with it, or did it take time? Talk to us a little bit about that.
No, that's the thing about it because tell you what, I'm one person who likes being in the background. I come from that corporate background where I would do because yes, I'm going in case of meeting. Yes, this is a solution. This is just a problem we have. We solve it, and this is it. I'm one person who I'd never really loved social media. I was never on social media before this. Even now, it's a bit of a struggle. But the thing about it, one thing I realized at times we have to go into, it's not everything we're going to enjoy. And it takes at times discomfort, right? Things like speaking. Now I do events in the case of speaking engagements. It's not something that initially I was very keen on. Now I do enjoy it, but because now you look at the end goal, as opposed to looking at the process or looking at the things I have to do, I look at where I'm going to land. What is it I'm sharing? What is it I'm trying to? Because the thing about it, if I don't share this knowledge, nobody's going to know about it. And as one of my mentors told me, is that if you've got an idea on how to help somebody and you don't do it, that's being selfish, right? I had another mentor tell me that you should be ashamed to die till you make an impact on another human being. So those are kind of things that kept me going. It's like, right, okay, if I don't do this, guess what? Maybe I should be ashamed to die because I have this knowledge. I'm not being able to share it. I'm not making an impact on another human being. So again, I look at it more beyond the process by looking at the end goal of what I'm trying to achieve. How is it I can communicate this? How is it I can help just one person do this? And now it's so much easier. I love writing. Videos just can take a little bit of time. But I love writing. I do write quite a bit. So because I'm an author as well, so writing comes naturally to me. So it's just about finding as well things that align with you. So for me, I found writing is because it comes naturally. So I tend to be, that's the reason like LinkedIn and X tend to be my main platform because it just aligns with my style.
But I heard something key here I want to capture is that however difficulty the process is or the journey is, what helped you is to be locked in into the ultimate end result that you want to create, that vision, and that helped you keep the path of practicing either the public speaking that you didn't feel comfortable in the beginning, or the connecting, and also, does that capture what you've said?
Absolutely. And it's all about embracing that discomfort. Yes, it will be
Okay.
uncomfortable to start off with, and you won't be comfortable with everything. Business is hard. Somebody tells you otherwise, tell you what they're not telling the truth. And that's the reason not everybody's going to do it. You can't be in the comfort zone of maybe just getting a job and just getting paid. But if you go into a business, there's certain things you won't enjoy, not everything you enjoy doing. Like in my case, my favorite bit is being able to help people.
Mm-hmm.
Jumping on those coaching calls and getting people, getting those results. That is my superpower. Same in the corporate world. I like fixing stuff, right? The corporate world is about fixing stuff. That is my superpower, bridging that gap, right? Be it corporate or actually helping people. The marketing side has never really been something that I enjoy doing, but I
Mm-hmm.
have to do it because we talked about that delivery, right?
Yeah.
Visibility.
Yeah.
Because how is it people going to know about it if you don't do it? So it's all about, yes, identifying certain things that you end up doing that you might not be comfortable doing, but they're just part of the process, and being able to embrace that discomfort, right? Because at times, yes, it can be uncomfortable, but it's looking at the end goal.
And talk to me a little bit about the different ways that you connect, or the different levels that you connect in the fitness aspect of your business versus the banking aspect, which I think that's sort of starting to dwindle down, if I'm correct, and you're focusing more on the fitness aspect. Is there a difference between the connections, the way that you're connecting with people?
Absolutely, quite different. Coming from the corporate background, because I also teach, I still do growth, like strategies, like on the corporate side. In the case of
Mm,
coaching people, um, my starting point has always been the case of transformation projects. In the case of banking systems, streamlining those
mm,
processes and improving that. It was very different from that perspective because it was more about, this is what we want to do. We got the bottom line. Looking at, in the case of, how is it that we can, yes, bring about efficiencies, but it's all about the profitability of the business. How is it we can save more money? How is it that we can make our customers a little bit more happy, right? So it's very sort of like that higher level kind of into sort of like relationships. Yes, you
mm,
are dealing with a team. It's all about that team relationship building, connection you're building in creating or going towards that particular purpose of delivering that particular project, right? Whereas with coaching, you can't put a value on it. And for the longest time, I coached for free because you can't put a value on seeing a smile on somebody's face and go like, yes, I've now grown, I've paid down my debt, right? Because I did financial coaching as well. Or I've lost some weight. I'm in the best shape of my life right now. I have more
mm,
energy, right? Right. So it's things. So with that, there's that personal kind of connection that you have
mm,
with human beings. And I found, actually, tell you what, the reason why I've actually went into this, the coaching, the fitness coaching space, is what I found is all these projects I've been running. I've been lean transformation projects for over 20 years now. And one thing I found is that it was always a focus on the outcome of that deliverable. But what was missing is that we need to empower the the tools. We're looking at the tools pretty much in the case of, like, we're looking at, right, okay, this is what we want to achieve, right? As far as in the case of the end goal, we want to create this system, we want to streamline this process. But forget, those are pretty much I would look at them more as the end processes of it, or the
mm-hmm.
end sort of like they sit in the extremities of the whole objective of it. But what was missing was was the people themselves.
The soul.
Absolutely, because those are the tools pretty much, right?
Mm.
So we're looking at, right, okay, I need to, the operators of those particular tools, like we need to sharpen these tools, which are pretty much the processes, so we can have a better reporting, so we can streamline this thing, those tools. But we neglect the operators of those tools, the buy into that. So what I found is actually breaking that ice as well. At times it's almost like you have to unfreeze, because at times you get that resistance. People have been using maybe a system or doing all sort of like having certain frameworks that have been actually following. They've been doing it for years and years on end. Now trying to break that for them to buy into a whole new idea, you find that's a little bit of a struggle. And at times it's not as efficient as if you had people actually buy into the idea. And if people as well were performing at their best, that are actually pretty much the operators, guess what you're actually going to get? That's the ultimate what you want to get to. And that's the reason I thought, you know what? Why is it that we forget that element? One, we need to get people to buy into that. And it starts with what? That's the idea, the purpose. And it takes mindset in the case of growth. What is it we're trying to achieve? Before you can sell people the purpose of that, the need to understand and buy into that idea, then it just makes things so much smoother in the delivery of that particular project. So that's one of the things I do. I talk about growth and stuff like that. I help in the case of the businesses to do that. But what we do is we don't go straight into, right, this is what we're going to do. Let's just do this. But you start off with the mindset element first. Let's get people to understand the reason why we need to grow, the ideas behind that, they buy into that. Then it's so much easier then to trickle that down. And when it comes to the implementation of it, it's just so much easier because everybody's pretty much aligned with that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, Ritchie, let me take you back a bit. How were you as a kid connecting?
Wow, that's a very good one. As a kid, I think connecting was very, very different, right? Because I think, with kids, you're free spirits, right? You just go out there, you're having a basketball game or whatever it is, you connect, and then you chill. You just find those relationships that people that maybe you might actually vibe with at that moment in time, right? So that is very, very different to sort of like a situation where how we do connect as we get older and talk about in business and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so going back as a kid, I think it was more about being that free spirit, and you can just go out there and without any thought to it, very less friction.
Yeah.
Whereas I think as we get older, we're a lot more conscious of stuff.
What do you want to keep from that way of connecting today and what you're doing today?
I think it's that same spirit of actually no sort of like, no, pretty much you don't feel restricted as to overthinking in the case of relationships or connections. It's all about being able to be a free spirit. Because I think it just frees us up so much. And that's the reason people at times do find, say, networking events very, very stressful. And
So
I've been in that situation.
what are your tips to people about networking events?
I would say just be a free spirit, not so much in the case of expectations, because I think we have too many expectations, and we also have to, almost like we feel we have to play a certain game, or we have to show up a certain way.
Yeah.
What if we just go as a free spirit and just let things flow? But at times it takes that conscious, deliberate effort to do that. It's just a natural thing as we get older, because we've been pumped with all these kind of ideas. I'm going to this network event, I need to show up as this kind of person.
Yeah.
But how about we just go out there and just sort of like just flow, go with the flow?
Yeah, I love that. And so let's go a little bit back as well on what kind of advice would you give your 19-year-old self, getting into the business world or in the with the connecting, the way that he connected back then versus how he's connecting now?
I think I would go back to what I did talk about earlier about connecting with oneself first,
Okay.
right? If I had to talk to my 19-year-old self first, I would go like, how is it that connect with oneself first? Because the thing about it is, I have to be able to connect with oneself for me to be able to be of value to somebody else.
Mm.
And it's that understanding. I think for me, that has been a game changer, right? I need to fill my cup first so I can be able to be better served, save other
Okay.
people. Just as they say, like in the case of like we get on a plane, right? They say when there's an emergency and you get those oxygen masks come down,
Yeah.
even if you got a child or you've got somebody who's who might need help yourself first, then you're better placed to help somebody else. So I think that is key. I would say like, be show up. Say with fitness, I don't do it for myself. I do it for my loved ones because I'm better placed if I'm healthy and I show up as my best to be able to serve my family and be there for them. Yeah.
What other practices would you suggest to other people about connecting with themselves?
Other practices, I would say, I think it goes with things like it can be quite. It just varies. I think where we, in the case of our where we sit
Hmm.
with this. For me personally, what I find is having own quiet time to be able to reflect on things like that.
Hmm.
Because at times connecting with people, yes, is great, but we need that self reflection to start off with.
Mm.
Otherwise, it just gets so much that we're so and can end up not only getting stressful, but it feels like we are on the go, 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 go all the time, and that's what life is like.
Yeah.
But how about you just step back a little bit and have that some quiet space just to for that not just retrospection, but in the case of reflect just on life and just have them quiet moment, just quieten your mind for a little bit, where there's nothing like phones or TV or anything of that sort or work, and just have a quiet moment. For
Yeah.
me, that's one thing I do, and I really appreciate things like in the case of just having like just a sauna session in the evening, just sitting back and just relax and just reflect on that, just that you time. Just a game changer for me.
How about for people that will be watching this episode and you would want to share with them advice as to what to do like an hour after they watch the episode around connecting in their life? What would be one thing that you would ask them to do?
Yeah, I would say I think the easiest thing and simple thing to do. Again, we go back to that self awareness,
Mm.
right? Self awareness and that question asking yourself in the case of like, if I'm gonna make a connection, right? What value am I bringing to that connection? What's in it for me? And again, it goes back to that question I asked. And what's in it for me is not just about being selfish about what you're gonna get out of it, but what is it you're gonna input in that particular relationship or that connection, right? So it's always a thing for me. It's an easy and quick question to ask because some relationships, some connections can actually be almost like removing from
Mm.
us or
Mm.
bringing us down as opposed to actually making us grow because we're supposed to be growing on a daily basis. If something is not helping you grow, it's time to chip it away, right? Time to take chipping away relationships or connections in that respect. So the question is, what is in it for me?
Mm.
Not in a selfish way, but in it for me as how is it I can add value to somebody else's life or what am I going to get? So there's that pretty much reciprocity in a way in how you relate to people, because you need to add value in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And grow as human beings, right?
Absolutely. The moment we stop growing, the moment we start dying, right? Yeah.
I love the journey that you've shared from banker to, transformation specialist, especially in fitness and in change. Congratulations on your journey. And I love the constant attention that you place on value and self growth and self reflection and self awareness. I absolutely loved our chat. So thanks for investing the time today. What did you get out of today's conversation, Ritchie?
No, I appreciate it, Stephanos. And yeah, I think what I got from here, at times it's when you have a conversation like this, at times you just reflect on it. And again, it goes back to that self-awareness.
Mm,
So at times, for this has done for me is that bring about that awareness of connection. We don't think about it enough,
mm,
right? So you asking some of these questions, it just gets me back to reflect on it and helps me appreciate connections a little bit more as well, because at times we take things for granted.
mm,
And it's the connections that we make that help us grow, make us better, right? And so it's so somebody once said, in the case of like Chuck Tremendous Jones, so I'll talk about you'll be the same person in 5 years other than the books you read or the people you meet,
mm,
right? So at times it's those connections as well that we make that make us just better than, say, yesterday.
oh,
Yes, we
yeah.
can have books and all that kind of stuff, but you can't replace that with connections that we make. So thank you for that. I think it's really about that. For me, it was more about a reflection and appreciating what connection really means.
Oh, great. My pleasure. And you have a open invitation to come to Cyprus so we can renew this conversation. And I know, you haven't been to Cyprus, so you should come from the UK. It's only a 4 5 hour flight, so it's not too far. So next time you'll be in Cyprus, we'll have this conversation. Episode 2 of Ritchie is going to be in Cyprus face to face. How does that sound?
I love that, and we talked about this, I think, in the past. Yeah, I tell you what, it's on my bucket list. I really need to go, and there's no excuse because you're just
Exactly.
it's just a few hours flight. So yeah, no excuse for that. Yeah, I would love that.
Again, I
Yeah.
appreciate it very much. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon, Richie.
Same, we appreciate it.
All right, talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for watching another episode of Levels of Connection, and thank you for your continuous support. Please feel free to share with us in the comments below what you found useful from today with my conversation with Richie. See you soon.